An empty building is great. Just look who got here first. I'd love to fill up on some zombie takeout.
Don't you even think about it. What's up? Welcome to episode 228 of Zombie Takeout,
Zombie takeout.
the B-movie and cult movie podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we've got some listeners submitted from Danny Meeks. This is from Google Plus in reference to last week's episode, our review of Split, which Danny requested. He said, "Man, I'm so glad you gave this film a shot. Even though the film itself is weird as hell, I thought the circumstances surrounding the making of this were even stranger, especially the almost complete absence of details as far as how it was made."
I agree 100%. Yeah, exactly how I was feeling about it too. Weird as hell, and that's what I liked about it.
Yeah.
And the mystery surrounding the making of it is just intriguing
Yeah.
as hell.
He goes on to say how the actors and crew did almost nothing whatsoever before and after this film, and the really weird primitive CGI involved. I would love to hear an interview with Chris Shaw about the making of Split. As far as why we haven't heard anything else from Shaw, my own personal theory is that Shaw wanted to make a film that he had thought about his entire life, encompassing all of his beliefs and weird theories and questions that he had bouncing around his head forever. He put all of this effort and limited skills into this movie, and once done, felt that he had delivered his message, whatever you interpret the message to mean. And nothing else needed to be said. Back to writing textbooks. As lo-fi as it is, even if you don't like this, you got to respect his ambition and earnestness, and I do agree there. It was a hell of an undertaking, and definitely very earnest.
I think what's weird though is just the accurate picture he painted of 2014
Oh, yeah, true.
in 1989.
Mm.
I don't think those are aliens. I think that was the government.
Yeah. Something stuck with me at the end of your review. They don't make weird movies anymore. You are so on point with that remark. Unless it's a hard to find indie movie, studios will no longer take a chance. That's why I pretty much live in the past when it comes to watching my 80s backlog of weird and wonderful movies I have yet to see. It will take several years to complete, and that's fine by me. At least I'll never stop being bored trying to figure out what to watch next. Anyway, love you guys and keep up the good work.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. Again, I'm the one who said, they wouldn't touch it because it's too weird, but I agree with them on the indie studios. That's where you have Shane and Rubber and, that sort of stuff.
Now, I've been back and forth in my own head about doing this movie. I haven't seen it yet, is really the thing. But I do know a guy who's in it. It just was released to video
Okay.
this week,
Hmm.
and it's called Mother's Milk.
I haven't heard of it. I think
It's
it's pretty
it's
obscure.
a very indie movie.
Okay.
A Chicago actor that used to, I guess I could say, he was once my boss when I worked down at a local theater.
Okay.
Um, he's one of the stars in it, and I've been back and forth. I even asked him if he thought it would be something that we could review, but he didn't seem to. I don't know. I kind of got a mixed message from him whether he thought it was in our wheelhouse or not. So over the break, I'm definitely going to watch it. Well, I think I was going to watch it anyway, just because I got to see this guy
Yeah, yeah.
act on film. I've seen him in the theater, but
Yeah.
not on film. And
And decide if it's in our
if
wheelhouse, yeah.
if it is in our wheelhouse, yeah, I'm thinking it sounds a lot like a Perfect Host,
Oh, okay.
like that kind of movie,
Mhm. Sounds
but
good.
maybe even more depraved. I'm not sure.
Ooh, better. All right, so on to, well, instead of the news this week, because it is, of course, the last episode of the year,
You mean we have no other Star Wars news to report on?
just a few rumors. Oh, we do have the names.
Oh, no, we don't need to go over the
Hey, you
names.
brought it up. I wasn't gonna say anything. They're nothing terribly interesting. They're fairly standard Star Wars names. John Boyega's character is named Finn. I see a lot of mashups with Episode 7 and Adventure Time coming.
Hmm.
Beyond that, I really have no comment on the names other than they sound like normal Star Wars names.
What was the Sith name?
Kylo Ren.
Wait a minute, it's not a Darth?
Well, no, there's no Darths yet. You haven't seen the trailer yet, have you?
No.
There's one person carrying a red lightsaber.
Well, yeah, I've seen that
You've heard of the
image
red lightsaber?
of the
Yep. Yeah.
tri-tipped lightsaber.
Because it's a red beam and he's walking kind of ominously, it's assumed he's a Sith.
Yeah.
His name is Kylo Ren. We don't know who's doing the voiceover
Wait,
yet.
Kyle is a he?
Kylo.
Kylo.
We don't know who's doing the voiceover yet. Andy Serkis's character has yet to be named.
Oh.
He's probably the Darth. I'm assuming he's the Sith Master, just
Hey,
judging from the voiceover.
they haven't brought back Billy D. Williams, have they?
No?
Where's Lando?
Good point. Hmm.
Hmm. Well, anyway.
Anyway, because, as I was saying, because it is our last episode of the year, as we did last year, we're going to do our top five and bottom five of the year. Starting with the bottom five, and starting with you, Scott.
All right. The bottom five was way easier
Oh, yeah, yeah.
to pick for me. I don't know. First, I was wondering whether I was going soft or whether or whether we just did a lot better movies this year. And I think that the latter is our answer. I think I will go because I'm actually had to use movies I gave two brains to in my bottom five,
I
which is
did
really
two,
weird.
actually. I think I gave a two or maybe even 2.5 to five.
So from fifth to last, I'll do it backwards, like a true countdown. I did Howard the Duck,
Okay.
Ricochet in fourth
Hmm.
place, Manos, Hands of Fate in the third place. I almost missed this one. Stay Tuned
Oh,
in
wow.
second,
Okay.
and of course,
Hmm.
the worst movie that we have seen in 2014 by far, Highlander 2.
I kind of figured that would be your at the top of your bottom list, so to speak.
Which I gave no brains to.
All right, my bottom five is Ricochet, which, like I said, I think I gave that and Congo a 2.5. I had to debate between the two, but I remember Congo having at least one or two enjoyable scenes. I don't remember that from Ricochet.
Oh wow, you had a 2.5, huh, in there?
Hmm. For four, I have movie 43. At three, this was the one that I knew would never show up on your list,
It's
because the rest I thought could have.
probably gonna be in my top five.
God Bless America.
Oh wow, okay, no.
Hated that movie. At two, I have Highlander 2. And my worst film of the year, Deathstalker. I actually re-listened to that review, and it's the only one of those episodes that I re-listened to as I was putting the list together. And yeah, I remembered just how much I hated that movie.
And yet, after seeing Game of Thrones, it doesn't seem all that risque.
This is true. Good point. Good point. But Game of Thrones,
Whereas Game of Thrones, rape is kind of thrown around very casually in itself too.
occasionally, not no, they spend a lot of time in the brothel, but I don't remember a lot of rapes.
Because like when I was talking to somebody about it, they're like, I don't know, and they're like, I'm just like, what, too rapey? And they're like, yeah. The first season especially.
I'll have to go back and maybe revisit the first season. It's been a
Yeah.
while.
So
But
I
I
saw the first season of that and Deathstalker almost back to back. So I got to
okay.
see it was a
Direct
pretty good
comparison.
comparison.
Yeah.
They just didn't have thongs in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and
And much better special effects and
better
actors.
effects, better acting, far better acting, better story. Anyway, on to our top five.
Yeah, I'm surprised nothing in my top five or seven really, because I had five brains, so
Okay.
I had to rank my seven actually. And this was tough too, because there were some goddamn good movies we did. Um, and I wish if I had time, I would have gone back to have listened to this one just to have seen if it belonged in the top five or not. But number seven, I have Sun Don't Shine.
Okay.
Number six, I have The Thing from
Mhm.
1982.
That just was edged out of my list.
I know, same. Well, really, if I'm just doing top
Actually,
five,
it would have been at six, actually.
yeah, exactly. We both put it at six. Goddamn good movie though. This was killing me. Five, John Dies in the End.
Okay, I thought that would be higher, but hmm.
Uh, Four, I got Freddy Got Fingered.
Mhm.
Three, Pan's Labyrinth.
Okay.
And the top two, this was tough, but I think it just made sense. Two, I go with the first Highlander.
Okay.
One though, Office Space.
Actually, very little crossover on that, surprisingly.
Really?
Again, like I said, 6, I would have had The Thing if I had gone that far.
Yeah.
At 5, I have Amelie. 4, I have The Perfect Host. 3, I have I Declare War. Loved that one going in, saw it before we reviewed it, and still love it. My top 3 I saw before we reviewed them and loved them and still love them.
And all three are strong, yeah.
I Declare War. 2, John dies at the end.
Hmm.
And at number 1, this week's movie, actually, Tokyo Godfathers. And you'll find out why very shortly. Speaking of this week's movie, it is, as I said, from 2003, Tokyo Godfathers. Of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by the food store. It's New Year's Eve time at the food store. Come to the food store for all your special New Year's needs.
And also brought to you by Trash. Ain't it a shame when someone throws away a perfectly good Japanese girl?
Mhm.
All right. I just want to keep quoting from that movie. He's seen the body. He knows too much. All right. So we have these.
It actually would fit another scene.
Yes, it would. We have three homeless people in for pretty much all walks of life here. It's a very good cross section. He's got a I guess you could literally call her a drag queen.
Well, transsexual woman.
Right.
And she lives as a woman. It's not just a performance thing or a, part-time thing.
Yeah, you're right. She did live as a woman, didn't she?
It's a transsexual.
I guess the terminology they were using kind of
We'll get to that.
kind of threw me off.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, yeah. And then of course we have a husband who has left his family pretty much in debt, and a runaway girl who shanked her father.
Okay, we're getting into that right off the top.
Well, that's their backstory. He does select a very good cross section here. They discover a baby, and it is the answer to Hana's prayers.
The transsexual woman.
Yes, she always wanted to be a mother, and this was God sending her this gift for her to be a mother. But of course, they're homeless, and that is no place for a baby. And the other two are pursuing that they take her to the police, which she ignores until, of course, 4 or 5 acts later.
And it really is 4 or 5 acts.
Yes. To the last reel. But anyway, they go on this. First they go on a quest to try to find the baby's parents after convincing her that she cannot keep the baby because, I mean, she goes to leave them with the baby for herself, but realizes that it's just futile.
Mm-hmm. You can't raise a baby in a cardboard box, I think was the exact line.
Well, right. And I guess you could.
Well,
but
you
why
could.
would you?
Yeah, right. You shouldn't. If you have the option.
Right. Why would you do that to the baby?
Yeah.
If it's not your baby, you find it in the trash. It's great that you found it in the trash and it did not freeze to death. But don't take the baby yourself. The one to grow on. Anyway, so they go on a quest to find the baby's mother. And I can honestly say hilarity ensues at this point, couldn't I? Because that is pretty much the whole damn plot of the movie. They on this quest though, they do meet pretty much people from their former lives, and what drove them to being homeless. And it's not only this quest for the baby's mom, but it is all their parents, but also a quest for their own self-discovery. And hilarity. Well, I guess you could say should we go with the curveball of the plot, which you can kind of see from a mile away, that the parents aren't really the parents of the baby, and there's of course a good car chase, and then hilarity.
Brilliant chasing
ensues,
and a lot of twists and turns.
Yes,
which is one of the things I love. One of the many things I love about this movie. Just when you get comfortable and you think you know what it is, it throws a complete left turn at you.
I do. I mean, there were some that, like that one, you could kind of see from a mile away. But there were others.
But I mean,
I
like
mean,
the shooting at the wedding, the ambulance crashing into the store.
right, right. There were some just what the fuck moments. Um, the whole build up to the wedding, where they name the movie Tokyo Godfathers,
Mhm.
and they start introducing mobster characters. You believe it's heading in that direction,
Mhm.
where there's going to be like the mob is going to be this element throughout, and the plot is going to revolve around that. And it said, no.
Kind of, the plot doesn't revolve around that, but I like how they continually reference it. Throughout the
Well, they
movie,
do.
after that scene, there's a shooting at a mob wedding
Yeah.
that they become involved in. And after that, throughout the movie, even after they're out of the situation, there are just, you see periodic news reports about them trying to find the shooter.
Well, and the person shot was
Mhm.
the person that had pretty much ruined Gin
Gein's life,
financially.
yeah. Well, Gein actually ruined his own life.
Well,
But
yeah,
who
but he
it was it was the guy Gein owed money to.
right. But it sounds like he kind of set him up too at the
Well, possibly.
he was just being at peace with the whole deal. But in reality, the guy was a dick.
And that's again another great thing about the movie is that it takes these characters who would normally be kind of marginalized or patronized, and it puts them center stage, and it doesn't make them perfect. They have their own flaws. They're basically responsible for their own homelessness in all cases.
Yeah.
But it just humanizes these characters who you would never really see front and center in a movie. I mean, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say this is the only film in which the plot is largely driven by a transsexual homeless woman.
Yeah, yeah, I
Hana
would say
really
so.
drives the plot for most of the movie.
Well, she's the main character of the film, really.
And one of the greatest characters, not just in anime, I think in fiction. Just incredibly memorable and just insane.
It's a bit on the stereotypical side, I thought. I mean, the whole show tune,
Well,
you know,
yeah.
belting
Well,
kind of thing.
she was a drag performer.
Yeah.
And I do think they went a little over the top with some of the facial expressions. Overall, I love the facial expressions. The animation and our artwork are incredibly detailed in this movie.
Yeah, then they got a little too Cruella de Vil
They went
with
a
some
little over the
facial
top with
expressions.
some of Hana's facial expressions,
Right,
yeah.
right.
But I did like the detail after Geen was attacked.
Oh, there's some very beautiful
Hmm.
animation in here, no doubt about that. But this may sound crazy, but why was this animated? I know it's what he does. I know we're beating ahead to the sequels and remakes section, but what wouldn't have made this? I mean, a good live movie, you know?
Actually, I was going to tease this last week, but I forgot a little teaser for sequels and remakes.
Yeah.
Normally, I'm very much against the whole American live action remake of anime. I've complained about Akira, ad nauseum. This is the one exception. I would love to see an American live action remake of this. We'll get to that later. Uh,
Yeah.
it's anime because that's what Satoshi Kon does.
Yeah. Yeah. Aside from that,
He had the idea. Incidentally, this was co-written by Satoshi Kon, the director, and Keiko Nobumoto, who is noted for being the head scriptwriter for a series called Cowboy Bebop, which is largely considered to be the greatest anime series of all time. So very heavy hitter there. And the thing that really does strike you is, aside from the detailed visuals, is all of the twists and turns in the plot. Because they find the baby, they walk off, and they're on their way to find the parents with some conveniences. But it's a Christmas movie; you have to
yeah.
allow for conveniences. Really, the only egregious one is in the graveyard. They find a package of diapers and formula on a gravestone.
Well, I mean, isn't that yeah, I should have looked that up for Japanese cultural traditions, but it sounds akin to like the Mexican Day of the Dead ritual
Yeah.
where they leave things for loved ones at the grave for the afterlife.
Well, yeah, but it was a little too convenient. If this wasn't a Christmas movie, I'd be complaining about that. But
Well, I it's kind of jarring because if they had baby formula there on a grave,
I think I saw formula. I know there was a big package of diapers.
yeah, then that means it's the grave of a baby,
Yes, I assumed that. You see the diapers. That's just the reasonable assumption.
which is which is kind of a
Hmm.
it's a comfort, yes, but it's a comfort with a very dark side
Oh,
to it.
also, it's an animated Christmas movie that, and I just want to put this out right off the top, it is not for kids.
Right, right, right.
It is very adult, very dark at times. Also, and I normally only do this if a movie's on YouTube, but I'm going to make an exception. I'm putting a link to the full movie in the show notes.
Yeah, good, good.
I should mention, I saw this a week and a half ago after I sent you that link, and then watched it again today.
Well, damn.
I couldn't resist watching it after I sent you the link. I was just thinking about it, and I've actually seen it only 3 times so far in about a year. First saw it
Okay.
about a year ago when I reviewed it for Channel Anime.
Now you said you're studying Japanese before
Well,
we
I
started
just started
recording.
studying Japanese.
Now, the grammatical structure.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure when he said, "Can't you two get along at least for Christmas?" When he said it in Japanese, Christmas was really close to the line, or like beginning of the
Yeah,
line.
yeah.
So,
I haven't gotten to that part in the
okay.
lessons. I've just started, but just from having read subtitles in a lot of anime and just seeing where familiar words pop in and names and such, I get the impression that sentences are fairly, I won't say backwards in the sense that they're wrong, but they're reversed from what most languages have.
So it would end with the subject, which I
Generally,
mean,
yes.
more English sentences begin with the subject and end, but so okay.
As a rule, it seems that way. Like I said, I haven't studied much, but just from reading subtitles, it does seem like it's backwards from English.
Hmm.
Now back to the characters. I also really liked that you have these three homeless people who are very distinctly different people and really well-rounded characters. I mean, Han is a little bit of a stereotype at times, but they have very distinct personalities and very I don't want to say vibrant, but very clear personalities.
It's almost tough to believe that Hannah would let herself go this route, though. Would seem, someone who obviously likes comfort and stuff would not shy away from this over, I don't know, I guess it was over,
She was performing in a drag club, and one of the patrons insulted her, and she got angry and attacked him
yeah.
physically. And she was embarrassed by that, and she left. She ran away. And in very similar circumstances, Geen lost a lot of money gambling and left his family out of shame. And Miyuki, the girl, like you said, shanked her father. Her cat went missing. She blamed her father, and she stabbed him with a nail file. And remember, it's a Japanese movie, and shame is a very big thing in that culture.
Ah, good point, good
The
point.
honorable thing, so to speak.
And
They kind of, in a sense, did the honorable thing.
he's skewing it, because it wasn't necessarily so that they had to leave. It
Mhm.
really, in
Yeah,
reality.
yeah, they all could have stayed. It would have been an
Yes.
issue. There would have been problems,
Yeah.
but like Hana's quote unquote mother, her adopted mother, who ran the drag club, said, little money took care of it.
Yeah.
And when Miyuki reveals what happened with her father, I loved that scene. It's after the shooting, and she is kidnapped by the shooter, who is Latin American of some variety. They never
Right.
specify. They don't subtitle his lines. He only
Right.
speaks in Spanish, and then she's put with his wife, who only speaks Spanish. Miyuki doesn't understand it, so we don't understand it, unless
Right.
of course you know Spanish.
And some of it was easy to figure out.
Oh
And
yeah, you get the context.
yeah.
But I just love the idea of putting us just as in the dark as she was. Also, I loved how they were able to kind of get around the language barrier in time. They kind of understood each other,
Oh, yeah.
Yuki and the shooter's wife. Speaking of which, I have to comment, and I rarely comment about this in anything subtitled. The voice acting is amazing in this film.
Well, it's always better to listen to
Well,
the original
yes,
voice.
of
We've
course.
said this numerous times, I'm sure.
But I watch a lot of subtitled anime.
Yeah.
This is some of the best voice acting I've seen. When I first saw this about a year ago, I was able to miss a few lines of the subtitle and still follow it, and still get the idea.
You think it's better than Star Blazers?
Actually, I don't remember the original acting.
Oh,
Obviously, the dub was a joke, but
it's ridiculous, yeah.
the original. I mean, I mean the Japanese voice acting.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't remember how that was. The English voice acting of the original was hideous.
You're right. I think that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah,
Anything else
I'm
was
sure the
great.
Japanese was far better.
Yeah.
But I was just really surprised by how well I was able to follow, even missing a line here and there, and still understand what basically they were saying.
I mean, the way I am with these, I even forget that it was a subtitled movie. It's just, you know, I'm just getting the information in a different way, but I'm still listening to them deliver the line, and I'm just, processing the information in a different way. But yeah, now that you mention it, it was subtitled.
Oh, so you don't even think about it as being subtitled. I'm, a bit dyslexic, so I really have to work to read. So it was nice that I didn't have to occasionally, and I could miss it and still know what was said just
Yeah.
from the way it was said in a language I still don't really understand. Now, speaking of language, some of the terminology Geen used to describe Hana was a little surprising.
It is jarring now only because we are so sensitive.
Mm. He uses a lot of homophobic slurs toward Hana. And the thing is, it's interesting because it's never shown as a reflection on her, of course,
Yeah.
or even on him.
Hana uses the same thing to describe
Yeah,
herself a
and,
lot of
and
scenes,
it almost gets to the point where they're just kind of terms of endearment almost.
which made it confusing to me that she was actually transgendered because uh, when they're using that terminology,
Hmm.
it's just a gay dude,
Yeah.
drag queen.
Hmm. But she makes it very clear, particularly at the beginning, that she lives as a woman.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I loved the reappearance of the woman at the soup kitchen. In the beginning, they're at the soup kitchen, at a sermon, with a meal served afterwards.
Okay.
That's the opening of the film. It's this little
Yeah.
sermon, and then they get a meal. And Hana says to the woman, serving her, something along the lines of, "Give me a little extra. I'm eating for two," because Geen had said something about, her not being able to get pregnant. And she said, "But if God performed a miracle?" And then she says to the woman serving her, "Give me a little extra. I'm eating for two." Later on in the film, we've forgotten about that scene. That woman shows up again and says she really was eating for two because she sees Hana with the baby.
Oh, okay. No, yeah.
Didn't catch that the first time myself.
Now I remember what you're talking about. Right. And in fact, I think I was a little lost with that line. Like, what was that?
That was the woman from the soup kitchen in the first scene.
Okay.
It's just a great little callback that you catch like the second or third time you've seen the movie. Speaking of things you catch later, after in subsequent viewings, I actually only caught this after I read about it on IMDb. During the New Year's cleanup scene, as I call it, where Geen is beaten,
Yeah.
really brutal scene.
Yeah.
There's a building behind him in the distance with a series of lights on, and as he's getting attacked from left to right, the lights go off one by one.
Oh, yeah. There was a lot of that in that scene. And the death scene beforehand, too.
And as he gets up, they start to come back on, like a health meter in a video game. Never caught that until I read about it on IMDb, went back and watched it. And I was watching this short video on YouTube about Satoshi Kon's editing, and they mentioned the scene with the old guy dying. When you think he's dead the first time, all of the windmills in the background that
Yes,
had
I
been
love
spinning
that. It's
stop.
probably my favorite part of the whole movie.
Geen goes to close his eyes. He pops up, clearly, does the whole, I'm not dead yet.
And then they're all back.
Starts spinning again. And when Geen walks out of his hut, or his box,
They've stopped.
they've
Yeah.
stopped.
Yeah.
Just to let you know he's dead. Speaking of not dead yet, I love that they pulled that line out verbatim. They had to get off of this train they were on because Miyuki'd seen her father in the next train.
We're right, and you don't figure out why she just has completely gone nuts.
You
and
don't
left the
understand it at the
train.
time, and yeah, you find out at the end that she'd seen her father. And so they're walking through the snow along these train tracks, and Hana initially starts singing "Climb Every Mountain" in English, which always weirds me out when they sing in English or speak in English in an anime. But eventually gets tired and drops to her knees and go on without me. And that's when Miyuki sees the cemetery, and Hana says, just like out of Python, I'm not dead yet. I just got a kick out of the direct Python quote there.
Well, definitely the other homeless guy could very well have been a reference to the It's guy in the first place,
That is true. He looks a lot like him.
with the long gray beard
Yeah.
and gray hair. But of course, it's Geen,
Hmm.
you know, in the future,
Well,
should he continue this path,
effectively, yeah. The guy says, "You remind me of myself when I was young."
after them talking about him dying in a gutter.
Hmm.
Now, what did you think of the musical choice? I guess the overall style for the score.
One of my few other criticisms, I think the opening theme at the time where you hear it first in the movie is kind of jarring and doesn't quite fit.
It's a very odd choice, the whole American jazz in the beginning.
Mhm. When it comes back later in the movie, it fits perfectly, and if you look at the movie as a whole, it works. But at the beginning, it just doesn't quite work for me.
I think I'm the exact opposite.
Really.
I think it was weird, but I kind of liked,
Hmm.
just this ragtime Tokyo that they've
Yeah.
had.
Yeah.
It's a very strange thing. And then when it came, well, not even, I don't know if it came back later, but
Does come back verbatim later, and then there's kind of a variation of it during the chase scene.
right, instead they changed into more of a nondescript style of music, which, you know,
Hmm.
I don't think worked quite as well.
I think they just didn't want to distract from the chase scene.
True.
Because I mean, this is an intense chase scene where they're driving a car through an office building. I mean, it's that level of a chase scene.
As a whole, though, the music style changes. I mean, there had to have been a reason for the change, from going to like this American style jazz to more of a nondescript,
Yeah. It was
you
just
know,
general action.
style of music.
Yeah. Incidentally, the version of Ode to Joy or Beethoven's Ninth used in the closing credits was inspired by the version used in Clockwork.
I was gonna say that would probably be the lowest point of the movie for you when they used "Ode to Joy" because it's just another one of those musical cliches.
Well, the original, Beethoven, orchestral version used in the middle was, nothing special. Loved
Yeah.
the version on the closing credits, though. That's actually sung in Japanese. That version was inspired by the one in Clockwork. There's a making of featurette on the DVD, and the composer had mentioned that Satoshi Kon told him he wanted Ode to Joy in the movie, and he went home and that was the version he chose to watch was Clockwork, and that inspired the rather interesting version at the end.
So he really wanted "Ode to Joy" in the movie. I mean, that was like a,
That
huh,
was his choice to put it in there because I mean it's one of those notes you have to hit in a Christmas movie.
is it?
It's a convention at this point.
I mean, there's other Christmas music you could use that's not copyrighted either.
Well, true. I think it's just one of those things that you have to do, if you want to make it feel like a proper Christmas movie. And aside from being very dark and very adult, this really is a proper Christmas movie.
Yeah.
They hit all of the, I wouldn't say cliches, but they tick all the boxes. Even has the Christmas miracle at the end. Speaking of which, I loved that the sound went completely out as Hana was coming down
Oh,
in that
definitely.
scene.
Yeah.
It's just a very nice touch to go silent. Also, there's a montage right in the middle that I didn't even mind.
I didn't even notice it.
Well, similar, I didn't notice it, didn't bother me.
What was it? Them looking or?
I think it's just before Miyuki goes to make the phone call to her parents, and they're just kind of, pouring through papers and, looking around to find out where the parents were.
Gotta have a montage.
Mhm. Speaking of which, I love that they established that Miyuki lost a significant amount of weight while she was homeless.
Well, of course.
I mean, it makes sense that she would, but they went out of their way to establish this.
Although not necessarily. I mean, honestly, the worst food is
Well,
actually so
true.
much
The
cheaper.
cheapest, yeah. But they show a flashback of when she stabbed her father, and they actually do a really interesting thing with that scene where suddenly Hana becomes her mother and Gin becomes her father.
Yeah.
And they cut back to her and she's a lot thinner. Which you'd kind of noticed because you'd seen her, in the real time of the movie, and then in this flashback you'd notice she gained weight. But then you just A/B it in the same costume and you see how much weight she's lost. It was just a nice touch to note that. Loved the scene when they found the house.
Oh, the the one we used for the intro,
Yeah.
or
They stay in this abandoned building with all of these cats. That's the line we used at the beginning. And then Miyuki's going out to get some food, looks up, sees these two towers in the background, holds up the photo of the house that the baby's parents were in, that, it's their one piece of evidence, and it's the same house. She tells Gin and Hana. Gin walks out, takes out these keys that they'd found in a locker, opens the door, walks in, says, "Honey, I'm home." One of the funniest lines in the movie, just because of where it's placed.
Hmm.
That reveal was just hilarious and kind of heartbreaking at the same time. I also loved that they had Miyuki find the message from her father in the newspaper. And it just did, Angel, her cat has come home.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering what the newspaper. I didn't get a chance to see the entire article that they were looking at.
Well, all she sees is this little classified ad that her father had taken out that just says, "Miyuki, Angel has come home, Dad."
Okay.
And that's what she has when she calls home. And she gets the machine, as I recall.
No, she
No, you're right. He picked up and she couldn't
and
talk.
she couldn't talk to him.
Right. She's still too ashamed of what she'd done. And of course, this leads to, she's eventually reconnected with her father. Gin finds his daughter working in the hospital.
Right. They each resolve their own story,
Yeah.
of course.
Hana becomes ill, an undetermined illness, ends up in the hospital, and the nurse is Gin's daughter. Incidentally, just to explain the money, $1 is about 88 yen.
Okay.
The bill was like close to 30 grand. It was actually like 260 something. As the last time I looked up the exact number, it was like 264, I think.
But if they had their cards, they'd get reimbursed. But of course they don't.
And then this leads to the chase scene, which starts with Gin on a bicycle chasing the fake mother in a truck, and with Hana and Miyuki and this driver who they kept flagging down, somehow throughout the movie, in a car behind them. She destroys the bicycle by, driving up against the edge of a tunnel. Gin holds on to the truck, and then they crash into a building. Gin somehow saves the baby but gets knocked out. She takes the baby, runs off to the roof. There is a car chase through the building.
Right.
Miyuki at first ends up on the roof because she's the youngest and wasn't injured. And there's a bit of a scene where, please don't, kill yourself and don't kill the kid. And just as she's about to talk her down, how does she end up jumping? Or does she decide not to jump?
She went to jump.
She did go to jump. Okay, it wasn't an accident. She deliberately jumps with the kid.
Yeah.
Miyuki grabs her, then she talks her out of it, right, while she's holding on to her.
Yeah.
And then through another series of events, the baby gets dropped, Hana goes after her, and you have the Christmas miracle because they all survive.
Of course.
With a great sound cue at the end, where actually an anti-sound cue, where at the most tense moment, all of the sound is cut.
Yeah.
Now, at the very end, I thought, the first time I saw it was a bit too abrupt.
Well, I don't know where else it could have gone from there.
They close the last, well, they don't really close all of the threads. I mean, the babies return to the parents. Everything else is kind of left in a hopeful place.
Yeah.
But they don't really sew everything up nice and tight.
I think it's sewed up as tightly as can be, really. I mean, they can all go back to their lives in a sense. Will they or not, of course, is another question.
Of course.
But you got to think they would. I mean, with the evidence out there, for each of them, that what they did wasn't the end of the world.
But in the last scene, Miyuki sees her father. He walks into the room. Miyuki, Dad, fade. It just cuts cold at that point.
I mean, that they saw their act of leaving was much worse than the act that they did that drove them out.
Now, just a little bit of trivia. The film is full of 1225 references, Christmas. The number on the key, the cab fare, the address in the newspaper ad, the cab license, and the electric alarm clock lying around the debris of the ruined house. All said 1225. Also, at the convenience store where you see the movie posters in the background, it's both Perfect Blue and Millennium Actress, Satoshi Kon's two previous movies. He put the movie posters for his own movies in the background.
Oh, I mean, so it's a total, like a Lucas or...
Yeah, and in his next film, Paprika, you see, and in one scene, Perfect Blue, Millennium Actress, and Tokyo Godfathers all
I think Kubrick would do that too, wouldn't he? Yeah.
Also, something I picked up from the editing special. The backgrounds were drawn on multiple layers, so that they could all be adjusted at different speeds to make the camera pans more realistic.
Makes sense.
but it's not something that's conventionally done.
The background mats being different.
They just went this extra step. And the film took 2.5 years to make. Not a big surprise. The animation takes a long time.
Yeah, especially done in this style.
Yeah.
I mean, this is old school hand animation, right? I don't think
Well,
there was any computer involved, was there?
there were computers. They show some of the footage being worked on in the making of special. There were computers used, but there's no 3D.
Okay.
It's all 2D, classic, traditional animation, but they did use computers. And they weren't just drawing on cells.
Oh, okay.
I think it's all 2D. There's nothing in there that looks 3D.
Right.
Except for, I mean, some of those pan shots look suspicious, but knowing that everything was on a different layer,
They were just using that.
yeah, they were doing it in a
They
very traditional way.
they were using a different method to get the 3D effect in, which, is clever, but
Oh yeah.
time consuming as hell
Hmm.
and expensive.
But it's what made Cone the genius that he was. This is up there with The Wind Rises, Miyazaki's last film, and Grave of the Fireflies as the three greatest anime films I have ever seen. You know, and part of it is because of Cone's attention to detail in his artwork and in his animation. It's just very lifelike and very specific.
All right, so
I'm done with my notes. On to sequels and
yeah,
remakes.
yes.
Now, there haven't been any sequels or remakes. There's no room for a sequel. Everything is wrapped up, like you said, just as much as they can.
Yeah, sequel just wouldn't be very interesting,
No,
really.
there's really no room for no reason for it. It would just show the three of them reconnecting with their families. We can assume that happened.
You're talking about a story where there's a catalyst there, and it's a catalyst of low probability of actually occurring.
Right.
So to have that actually occur twice,
No. If you did that kind of sequel, no, that would just be
right, then
no,
you're into Die
unnecessary.
Hard territory.
Exactly. Yeah. No. But like I said, this is the one anime that I've seen that I want to see an American live action remake of.
I agree, but I mean, you just gotta know it has to be some very high quality actors in there.
The reason I want to see it, and I mean full on American, call it Chicago Godfathers, completely Americanize it. You can do
Oh
that.
man, yeah, you could.
There's no reason it has to be set in Japan. Go full on American with it.
And I think I just got a great idea for Hana.
This is the sole reason I want to see the American version because I have the perfect actor for Hana. Well,
Really?
I'd like to see if we're on the same page.
I would go with John Turturro.
Interesting. I was thinking Willem Dafoe.
Ooh,
You've got the height, the face looks like Willem Dafoe.
mm-hmm.
For Geen, and I'm thinking she'd be instead of Hana, Hannah.
Yeah,
Geen would be Jean.
or John.
Yeah. Paul Giamatti.
I was right there with you.
Okay.
Yes.
And for Miyuki, who would be Michelle, Mickey, some American version of that name. Random decent teenage actor. So I'm thinking Chloe Moretz just as a placeholder. I don't have anybody particular in mind for her.
Yeah, because you'd still need to be a kid, pretty
Yeah,
much.
you'd need somebody who could pass for. I think she's 16.
Yeah.
But just when I thought of, and I think the first time I saw the movie, it occurred to me this Hana needs to be played by Willem Dafoe. Of course, the movie didn't do very well. It's actually kind of not very well known
Well,
among anime fans.
the for the U.S. box office, what idiot put this out in the middle of January?
Was it released in January? I didn't check that.
That's what IMDb said.
Okay,
They
maybe it was just a
released
little late.
Christmas movie in mid-January.
That was the mistake. Yeah, yeah.
Either you release it in the December before,
Yeah.
or
Or you sit
wait,
on it. Yeah.
or you sit on it till the following December, which of course uh, might happen with the interview.
Oh yeah.
We're recording this the night of them announcing that it's being pulled altogether.
Yeah, yeah. And just a tangent to that, briefly, if they're smart, they'll put it out on VOD. It'll kill
They said they're not gonna
because
for
everyone
now.
will want to see. I had no interest in the movie.
Me neither. Now it's kind of like we gotta see it just to tell those guys to go fuck
If they put it out
themselves.
on VOD, I will rent it.
I think I would have gone to the movie theater just to be like, they can go fuck themselves. And I never go to the movies anymore.
Nah, same here. Now, just back to Tokyo Godfathers.
Yes,
Is that the American release or the Japanese
I
release?
think it was the American release.
Okay.
So it was probably released in Japan for Christmas. But
Okay, that makes sense.
for some reason here, I mean, even though this was 2003, why are we still in the we can't release things worldwide simultaneously?
Well, it's different with anime because they have to get the rights. And actually, come to think of it, I don't know if this was released officially over here because there's no dub.
It was just a low box office IMDb had for it.
Yeah, well, it didn't do well over there either.
Really?
Um,
It grossed $128,000 or $129,000.
which I think is below the budget. It
And
it went in the red.
its opening weekend was only 37,000. But that was mid-January. January 16th was the opening weekend. Why would you do that with the Christmas movie?
Very good point. I guess they didn't want to sit on it. I'm assuming it wasn't ready in time for Christmas.
I mean, are you going
They
to
got it
release
out
a
as
movie
fast as they
called
could.
Independence Day, not on Independence Day? Oh, wait a minute.
Was it?
The sequel, they said they're not gonna.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the similar mistake. But that's why there won't be an American version, why there hasn't been, because it did not do well, so not a lot of people know about it. Even among anime fans, it's kind of obscure. All right, on to brains.
On the brains.
Like I said, this is my, number one movie of the year. It's one of the greatest animes I've ever seen, one of my favorites. I'm going 5, needless to say.
I'm almost with you.
All
I think it was just a bit of the old hokiness or cliche to it. I'm going 4.5 because it was beautifully done, and there's a lot of weirdness to it
right.
that you just gotta love. So yeah, 4.5 for me.
And what have we learned?
Shit's okay, but fart is crossing a line.
That's why Hana beat down the guy in the drag club. He said, quote unquote, eat shit, you old fart. Which Miyuki says to her earlier in the film, and
Yes.
with similar responses, although she doesn't physically attack Miyuki. I think Geen holds her back.
Yeah.
And I learned that rest and nutrition don't really fit in with the homeless lifestyle.
No.
Another line that cracked me. All right, so until next year, we're taking the next 3 weeks off for the
Thank
holidays.
God.
You're going to need it.
Yeah.
Because we will be reviewing Resident Evil, starting the 5-part series covering all of the Resident Evil movies. I already love them. You've never seen them. This is going to be interesting.
Something to look forward to in 2015.
Until then, go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to, links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube, links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you enjoyed the show, spread the word, tell people about it. We could use the word of mouth. We, of course, appreciate all the listeners we have, but more would be better. You also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review up through late February. Donnie Darko is the last one that we have in order. The request form, if you've got a movie you'd like to hear us review, please leave it on the request form. We'll get to it. And, of course, the recommendations list. Oh, I'm so happy this made it to the right list. There would have been issues if this did make it to the right list. Of course, you can email us, zombietakeout@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-ZTO1, or for the alphanumerically challenged,
They can,
414-368-9861.
of course, go fuck themselves.
Of course, always remember that you will always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee, and until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life,
There you are.
構わずに言ってちょうだい。でもこんなオカマがいたってことだけは忘れないでね。
Just something I forgot to mention during the episode, there is a 1-minute short film that Satoshi Kon, director of Tokyo Godfathers, made. It was his last work. It's about how it feels to wake up in the morning. I'll be posting it on the Facebook and Google Plus pages. If you don't see the movie, at least see this. It's a minute. It's genius. All right, so see you next week.
Happy New Year.
See you in 4 weeks, sorry.
In
I always do that.
2015.